with me
Good
how your day?
evening, sir.
Good evening. Who wants to share with me how your day went? Who volunteered to do that? So this evening we're going to be having a relaxed time and discuss more or less. And I promise it's not going to be more than 1 hour. That's why I'm starting at 10 on the dot. So by 11 on the dot, we should be rounding up. And it's a school, it's a class. So I want to be as interactive as possible. So who is going first? How was the day? Um, Adam says, so tiring. I don't even have the strength to speak. Oh my God, I'm sorry. What did you do? Oh, is this so tiring? Okay. How was the day? Okay. Go ahead. Put it on the chat board. Put it on the chat. Let me know how is your day going so that we know. Or use an emoji to describe how you are feeling right now. And I'll try to guess what that emoji means. Let's do it quickly. Just put an emoji and I'll try to guess how you're feeling right now. Okay. Today was full of work, and for Yusman, today was full of work and he looks tired, right? Are you feeling sleepy? Wait, Glorious, are you in the hospital or something? Are you having flu? Sorry, Gracious is having flu. Um what's Abdurrahid is feeling expensive. Really? Okay. Blessing is feeling tired. Babatunde is feeling disappointed. What happened? Who breaks your heart? Um, Agunzi Doris is feeling stressful. Daniel is wait, Daniel, I don't know what you're doing. Are you smoking? Are you or thermometer face? What does that mean? Are you feeling hot? Okay, maybe feeling hot. Faith Taiwo is feeling upside down. Oh my god. My mom received her Ngaji and I had the pound ashu at 5 a.m. I don't know. I don't even know what that means, but whatever it means, there's pound in there. And I know, okay, fever. Sorry. All right, thank you for telling me how your day has been. My day too has been very tired. In fact, at a point I was considering that we should reschedule today's session, but then I discovered that one of the most important thing about life is you if you don't stand out by showing up only when you feel like showing up. So for those who stand out, there are people who choose to show up even when they don't feel like it, right? So I know a lot of you are not, if you have your time, you're supposed to go to your bed and sleep right now. Yeah, I understand that. And that's why deliberately this session is made for times like this. So that for you to create time to be here this evening. And of course, know that this does not have to do with this does not contribute to your grading system. It does not contribute to whether you'll be weighted or not. So anyone that is here, the 34 of us that are here this evening are here because we're intentional about growth, we're intentional about standing out. And all of us are here because we feel we need to be here. And trust me, that is one of the habits you need to start creating and start developing as someone that wants to stand out. There's a difference between, I used to tell people that there's a difference between diligence and sacrifice. Now, anybody can be diligent. Anybody can be diligent. Diligence is putting in your best to get the best outcome, most especially at the best possible time, right? That's diligence. But sacrifice means doing your best even when it's not convenient, doing your best when it's not convenient. So people who are extraordinary are people who add a little extra to the ordinary. Can can an ordinary person can just do anything when it's convenient. That's what everybody does. Okay. I said I don't want to take it. I don't want to take my time, or I don't want to go deeper this evening. But I would love to say this, that I've learned from experience and from the great men that I've worked with over the years, that if you're doing something that is easy, if what you're doing is always the easiest thing, you hardly stand out, because anyone can do what is easy. So people who truly stand out are those people who choose to do what is difficult. Why? Because if it is difficult, people cannot do it. That means the more difficult it is, the more value it commands. And the more value it commands, the more rewards to you. We're going to be talking about a reward system in the course of our intelligence system, if time permits. And we're going to see that life is about service and reward. Service and reward. So, and the value or the worth of your life is determined by the volume or the worth of the reward you get. And the more difficult it is, the more people cannot do it for themselves. Okay. And if people cannot do it for themselves and you can do it for them, you get more reward. You get rewarded more than every other person. So thank you for showing up. Thank you for turning on this evening. Now I will now go to my next question. How many of us, with a show of hand, how many of us have read the article we shared on mastering the art of learning? Anyone? Has anyone read it? If you've read it, I want you to show. I want you to indicate, because that's essentially part of what we're going to be discussing this evening. That's where our discussion is going to start from. Anyone has? Okay. Manasseh says he has read it. Who else? Only Manasseh read it. Wow. Okay. What do we do now? Because that's supposed to be a foundation to our discussion this evening. So if you have not read it, it's very difficult for you to understand what we want to say. Manasseh, would you want to share with us what you learned from it so that those that have not read it can understand? Oh, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about your unstable network, Doris. Manasseh, are you there? Are you able to unmute and tell us the summary of the article? What you gained from the article? Is he trying to speak? Okay. All right. Maybe he's trying to. Who else? Who can help us? Who have read it and wants to? Um. Oh, is my voice breaking, guys? Guys, speak to me. Is my voice breaking?
No, your voice is not breaking, sir.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry about that. For Doris and Gift, I think it's a network. I think it's a network. Okay. So tonight, I just want to do a quick recap of what we learned last week or last 2 weeks, and then we'll build on that from here. So I'm going to rush. I'm going to quickly rush through. I'm going to share my screen in a second. So and confirm you can see my screen. I'm sure you can see my screen, right? So last week we talked about a system, and we say that a system is a combination of two, or we talked about a system, and we say a system is a connected part that works together as one. And then we talked about there are two types of systems. There is a standard system and there's an intelligence system. What a standard system does is to take fixed information and follow those instructions. Now, there's an intelligence system that that learn from data and make decision on their own without having to be fed new information. So, and then we talked about the difference between a standard system and information system. Standard system and intelligence system. And we say that there are 4 frameworks around the intelligent system, and it's a system that learns and make decision, and that's what makes them intelligent. And we say that one of the ultimate case study of an intelligent system is your brain, and that human brain is the reason why humans are they are sophisticated as we are. It's the size of our brain. It's not the size of our. It's not how fast we run, how fast we can run. It's not how big we are as a size, but is how our brain is designed to be to be sophisticated. And we talked about that God gave us the permission to dominate, to be fruitful, multiply, and dominate. And one of the things that God have designed for us to make us dominate is the brain. And we say that the brain is one of the example of a powerful intelligence system. Why do we say that it has? It is a powerful intelligence system for 5 reasons. Number one, the brain can learn from past experiences. The brain can change based on new information that it has received. It can store information. It can make better decisions and imagine new things. All right. So number one, it can learn. Number two, it can store information. Number three, it can make better decisions. Number four, it can imagine new things. Then and adapt based on that. And then we talked about that what makes people stand out, why people stand out, why we stand out as human species is because of our brain. It's because we are an intelligent being. We are more intelligent, although other animals are intelligent, but we are more intelligent than them. And we connect is that if you learn how to tap into your own intelligence system, you will stand out in any phase of your life as well. So the extent to which you can stand out in your career is how intelligent your career is. Your career is a system on its own. Okay, a lot, and we've mentioned that some of us could be intelligent spiritually, and so when it comes to spiritual matters, you discover that you don't struggle with them. You have gained masteries because you have built an intelligent spiritual system. But not too many of us have learned to build an intelligent career system. Not too many of us have learned to build an intelligent emotional system. Not many of us have learned to build an intelligent financial system. Okay. And again, this feed into all the sessions we've been having, from growth paradigm or growth mindset, to financial intelligence, to emotional, to staying sane with Dr. Victor Atox, to building confidence and consistency and perseverance. You realize that this falls into them. So the goal of this session or of this class is to see that those aspects of your life that is being introduced to you is how can you position yourself so that you can build an intelligent system around that, so that you'll be able to stand out just as human is standing out. And then we ask a very cool question: Are you a system? Are you running as a standard system or as an intelligent system? And it's something you need to ask yourself. You need to answer: is your career running as an intelligent system? If it's running as an intelligent system, are you learning from your mistakes? Are you learning from the mistakes of others? Are you actively gathering new information about your career, so that you can turn your life around? Now, when you walk into an office, when you walk into an environment, are you operating as a standard system that just assimilate everything? They give you instruction, you act on them. They give you instruction, you act on them. You don't learn. You're not creative. You're not picking from the environment. So we ask you that question, and by now I know you should have been able to answer those questions. So that's what we talked about yesterday. So we say that what makes a system intelligent is the ability to learn. And that takes us to our session today. Today we are going to be talking about mastering the art of learning. Mastering the art of learning. So I'll stop at this point and share another screen now. Um, Stop sharing the screen and share a screen. Oh, we're already 55. That's interesting. Oh, I love that. I love that. 55. I didn't expect that we'll get up to 55 tonight. Thank you, guys. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen in a second. So I want to start with this simple question. Has anyone learned anything new today? I mean, from morning to now, have you learned something new? Anyone? Let me know. Let me see what. Let me see it on. Let me see. Can you guys still see my screen? Yeah. Hello. You guys can still see my screen,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
Yes, sir, we
Great.
can. We can see.
Okay. 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 So a lot of us have learned something new today. Can you share with me what you've learned? Share with me what you have learned today. Something new, something you never knew before that you've added to your knowledge today. Just type it in. Anyone, can anyone help me? And if you want to unmute and and tell me, go ahead. Raise your hand and then I'll call you. What have you learned today? What new thing have you learned today? What new thing have you learned today? Okay, Idakomachi, go ahead. What new thing
All
have you
right.
learned today?
Good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Actually, what I learned today is not a specific skill or some kind of hard skill. Um, Recently, I've noticed something that I've not been able to do, and it's about like mapping my career direction. Like in biomedical sciences, there is such a thing as research interest, and I've been trying to like carve out what my research interest is, and I've been scrutinizing my experience, like what is my experience and all that, trying to like look forward and then connect my experience with what I can possibly do with that experience. And it has been a very, very difficult thing. But today I was reading, no, not reading, I was going through a video on Coursera, and then I came across something that kind of unveiled the the thing that I've been finding difficult to understand. And all of a sudden I saw that, yeah, this is where my strength lies. This is a perfect direction for me. And yeah, it was, in fact, even up until the time that we started this call, I was kind of thanking God because of that eye-opening experience. And that's all.
Wow, great. So today you've been able to learn or like gain, if I understand correctly, you went on Coursera to do a course or to whatever took you to Coursera, and then you've been able to gain an insight of what will be your next line of research interest in biomedical sciences. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, sir, something like that. Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes,
Yeah,
sir, yes.
and that's powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I really want to know the 3-3 speaking framework. Sakina, please go ahead. Tell me about the 3-3
I just
speaking
got
framework.
to school. I didn't enter the kitchen. Yeah.
Miriam, please, can you mute?
Hi, good evening. I'm Sakina. Okay, so this evening now, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I had a section this evening with my coach, and he asked me a question on the spot. And while I was giving my answer, he said something. He said something that
Oh my God, we lost
I
you at that. We
wasn't.
lost.
I was feeling very confused. Was answering the question, and he gave me, yeah. So can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. So while I was answering the question he asked, I was rambling and I was confused. So he gave me a framework, like a structure, the 3-3 speaking framework. The 3-3 framework is when you want to give a presentation, you split it into introduction, body, and conclusion. So for the introduction, there should be maximum of 3 key points. So during the introduction, you want to mention your name, thank the people that invited you, and give a brief summary of what you want to talk about. Then the body is talk about 3 main points of the topic. So it could be something like grit or consistency. You give like 3 types of consistency during your body. Then conclusion, you talk about what you iterate everything you talk about in 3 key points. So it gives you a structure. So anytime you want to speak or anytime you want to give a presentation, you split what you want to talk about in just three key points, and you can do that within time frame. So it gives the audience something to look forward to, and it gives them interest to keep listening to you. Yeah, that was just all I learned today. So I'm
Wow.
thinking of practicing more and everything. Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive. That's interesting. I think I've learned something new today. Yeah, you see that's why this is important, so that we can learn just beyond me. I know that if I give you guys time, you guys have a lot to share about what you learned today, and I think it's something similar to another structure I know about before. I didn't know about the 3-3, but something similar, something like tell the people what you're going to say what you want to say and tell them what you just said. So that's like introduction, but
Mhm.
the conclusion, right? So
Yeah.
that's the way to put it. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, and that's brilliant. Okay, so
Yeah.
I know, guys.
Thank
So
you.
thank you. So for those of you who have not learned something new today, you should have learned this one already, right? So that's why group learning, as you're going to see, it's also a very critical one. Okay, Isaac said, I learned how to change line spacing between paragraphs on Microsoft Word. It was simple, though, but I was surprised I never knew about it. Okay, see, so why do I ask us to share what we've learned? So from the three persons that I've presented, you will discover that there are different paths to learning. First, Matthew went to Coursera. So something he was determined to learn. He has made up his mind to learn. He was deliberate about learning, and then he entered a learning platform, and then he gained knowledge. That's one way you come across learning. Second, um, uh, sorry, I'm trying to get the name again. Is
Sakina.
this Sekina?
Shekinat,
Okay,
Shekinat.
Yeah.
Sekinat went to see her coach. Now, did you go to see her because why did you go to see your coach in the first place? Is it just to say hi, hello, or you went there for a session? You went there for a session.
Oh, it was the online meeting.
It was an online it was a
Yeah.
scheduled, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So that means you went there with an intention to learn as well.
Yes, I did.
But you were not expecting to learn the 3-3 framework of speaking, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was on
Great.
the spot.
It
Yeah.
was on the spot. So
Yeah.
there's another way we learn. We learn on the spot. Okay. You learn on the spot. You go to a place and then you didn't even plan to learn, and then something entirely come up, and then you learn from it. And then Isaac learned by necessity, right? Because he said today he learned how to do line paragraph or Microsoft Word. That means he wanted to do it. He was at that point that he wants to do it, but he doesn't know how to do it. And maybe he searched through the Google or asked people around and he learned it. So now these are the three different ways that we learn, and there are other multiple ways. Number one, there is an intentional learning whereby you determine to, okay, this time around I want to learn something, and then you go to that place and learn. Number two, there is the learning that comes unintentionally. As you go through life, you come across things that you did not know before, and you learn them. Number three, you learn by necessity. That means you want to get something done right now, just like Isaac. You want to get something done right now, but then you don't have and you don't know how to do it, so you go out to learn it. So deliberate learning by necessity, or unintentional learning, this is how we learn things. Now, and I want you to understand something, that it takes someone who's intelligent, who has actively built an intelligent system to recognize a learning opportunity when it presents itself. A lot of us go through life, and life is teaching us a lot of things every day. Your conversation with people teaches you something. Your how people treat you teaches you something. Every day as you go through life, life is designed to teach you something. Now, the good part of it is that whether you like it or not, your brain is learning. No, I want you to notice that. I want you to take note of that. Whether you like it or not, your brain is learning. Your brain does not need permission to learn. Why? Because it is programmed to be a self-determined intelligence system. So he picks from the environment. As whatever you see, you are feeding to your brain put it in the database and learn. That's why when you see somebody today, you will you will recognize the person again when you see them next time. No, I'll be watching I'm watching Suits. I don't know how many of us know Suits. This American law series. I'm watching it again for the fifth time. And today I saw someone in that movie. When for those some of us that have seen the movie, when my cross eventually got into, don't ask me who is my cross. Go and read it. Go and read it or go and watch it if you want to know. When my cross eventually was arrested and he got into the prison, there was is this psychometric or psychiatric evaluator that came to evaluate him. Immediately I saw that guy. I remember I know this guy from somewhere, but I couldn't remember where exactly I've seen him in his movie. So I have to pause the movie, close my eyes a bit, and shake my head. Then I now don't. I my brain processed through movies that I've seen. As in, I does that within seconds. Brrr, pam. And I remember, oh yes, I've seen him in a doctor series known as The Residence. He's a major doctor in that series known as The Residence. You see, so my brain automatically have stored that information, and it has gone deep down into my subconscious mind. So when I saw this person, my brain triggers and say, come, you have seen this person before, but I couldn't remember where I saw the person. So when I had to pause and blank out every other thing, I now reached into the part of my brain where that person was taught. Okay, so I now reached to the part of my brain where that person was taught, and the information came out. Now it's exactly the same way. The perfect example of your brain is how every other memory system works. That's how your phone memory system works. There are pictures in your phone, but if you open your phone and all of a sudden you start seeing picture popping up, what would happen? You will know that this phone is faulty, because pictures are not designed to pop up on your phone just on their own. But that does not mean that those pictures are not in there. However, when you want to access those pictures, what do? If you're using a smartphone, an intelligent system, maybe you type the name, because if you use an iPhone and you type the name of the picture, there's most likely that maybe the name of the person or the description, or you look for the picture pops up. Well, now I say this to explain the fact that whether you like it or not, your brain is learning. Every day, your brain is picking from the environment and is using that to learn. And the truth is that whatever your brain learns becomes who you are. But the danger of allowing your brain to learn without you taking charge of the learning process is like, I have to give a good example. It's like someone who has a beautiful garden. Now, if you have left a place and you say, this is my garden. Now, once you start watering the garden, once the environment is fertile for things to grow, both what you want and what you don't want grows on your garden. Of course, if I'm using garden here because that's where some teach person can understand. But so some of us who were brought up in the farm, you understand that every farming process has three major stages. The first stage is the land clearing stage. The second stage is where you make ridges. And the reason you make ridges is so that you will separate where you want to plant from the normal ground. The third phase is the phase you plant. Then the fifth phase is that if you plant, you don't just go back home and wait for that things you've planted to ripe and you come and harvest it. No, what do? There is what we call weeding. Okay, and I think Isaac can understand. Isaac, what do we call it in Igala? I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember the Igala, but it's Jesus. How can I say? Edigbala, yes, it's called Edigbala. Forget, I'm sorry, apologies for those who are not Igala. But in that case, in the weeding process, what do? You have the plant that you want to grow, but there are plants that you don't want that have grown. So you weed to remove the plants that have grown, so that what can happen, those ones that you want to grow. Now, if you don't weed, the implication is simple. Those ones that you don't want will compete with the plant that is growing for nutrient, for space, for oxygen, for water. And as they compete with them, what happens? Most likely they will choke it up and kill your plant, so that what you have planted, what you really want it to grow, will not have the opportunity to grow. Not because your seed was wrong, not because you have not done what you have not planted them, but because you have allowed wheat to outgrow them. I know the smart ones are connecting this now to learning process. Are you connecting it now? So when you are not intentional about learning, it's like letting your brain to allow every other thing that you don't want to grow. So if that happens, you are not in control of your life. You're not in control. Yes, I love that. The one today said there is competition. So you're not in control of your life. So people who take control of their life, people who are deliberate about life, are deliberate about what to learn and what to unlearn. So it's not just okay for you to learn. You also need to master the art of unlearning, and that is part of learning process. Because whether you like it or not, because of the environment you grew up in, because of the kind of relationship you keep, you can't control what grows around you. You can't control what kind of weed come out. What you can control is to remove those weeds. That is an unlearning process. The planting process is the learning process. But most of us, more often than done, we are focused on learning process without thinking that there is need for us to unlearn, that is to weed. We are focused on planting with no focus on weeding. And some of us, we do not even plant. We just allow whatsoever wants to grow in our minds, to grow in our heads, to grow in our brain. And you begin to wonder why your life is not structured. And you begin to wonder why you're not in control of your outcome. You're not in control of your outcome because you're not in control of what you're learning. You're not in control of what you're unlearning. So while the brain is the most sophisticated intelligent system, it is also the man's greatest undoing. So your ability to learn and unlearn is what makes you stand out. And that is why this session of intelligence system is critical. A lot of you have picked up different things. That's why we needed to start with growth mindset. A lot of us pick up different things as far as your career is concerned. I was watching one movie this evening. One Nigeria. I don't watch Nigerian movies, but then my wife and co-people they like. So I was watching a movie, and in that scene, one great man come and was like, "Please help me beg your guy, even though it's just to shine his shoe, so that I will." And the girl now made a very intelligent comment. Say, why would you say shining? Why is it that it's only shining his shoe that you are thinking? Why don't you think big? Now, the guy, by the reason of his nation and nurture, by the reason of what people have told him, or maybe where he comes from, or the kind of education he has attained, or the kind of environment he grew up, whatever it is that have conditioned him, his brain has been wired, his brain has picked up things from the environment, and the response that the brain is giving him is that, look, you cannot do better than a shoemaker. You cannot do better than a shoe shiner. So when the person have such a mindset, until the person have learned to unlearn it, it will be very difficult for such a person to actually amount to something significant. So you see the importance of learning. I don't want to overflog this issue. You guys have heard about it. And that takes me to our next question. Okay, let me go to the screen that I'm sharing. Please confirm you can still see my screen. So, how do you
Yes, sir, we
learn
can see it.
something? Thank you. So the question is, in the next, this 35 minutes, in the next 25 minutes or 20 minutes, I'm going to rush through this. And please, I would love you to go and read that. Because we just have one, there are a lot I'm going to put down in reading, in writing, so that you can read, assimilate, and you can also engage there. If you have question, ask me from that place, I'll be able to answer. Now, how do you master the art of reading? Now, the problem is that a lot of us define our reading, a lot of us are learning wrongly. We think because we're taught, when you talk about learning, the first thing that comes to your mind most likely is school. When you talk about learning, the first thing that comes to your mind is school, because that is the structured, formal environment for learning. So, how do we learn in school? We consume information, and then so that we can pass exam. And that's why I always tell people that your greatest undoing is to study to pass. I had never at any point in my life, I understand that from secondary school, that studying to pass can give you a first class brain, but it does not give can give you a first class grade, but does not necessarily give you a first class brain. There are two different things. There are a lot of people that do not graduate with a first class, maybe graduate with a 2-1, with a 2-2. But if because of their intentionality of learning, or because they have mastered the art of learning to know instead of passing, they have a first class brain. So people who learn to pass end up having a first class grade. But it's only people who learn to know that have a first class brain. Okay? So instead of the brain, instead of the grade, go for the brain. But then also have both of them. There's nothing that says you can't have a first class brain and a first class grade. And for those of you that may not know, I graduated with the first class, and I've never regretted doing that. So when you only consume, when you consume more than you apply, Holy Spirit. Now we're going to talk about the law of net value. We're going to talk about the law of net value in one of our courses. And the law of net value is simple. It's simple. If you're a business person here, you know that if what you invest is more than what you get out of it, your net value is negative, and that is a loss. Now, so if you consume more than you apply, you are having a net value of negative. I don't want to go do that. So a lot of, like I said, a lot of us learn without direction. A lot of us focus on information, not understanding, not knowledge, and then we quickly forget. Now, how do we change that? I would have loved us to talk about, okay, if you have read something today, or if you feel productive, or time is no longer on our side to pause and reflect. But then now, so one thing I want you to know, that learning is not about time. Learning is not simply going through a book. People used to say, I read 300 books this year, I read 400 books this year. There was a time I used to say that, but as I grow up, I've come to realize that hope this meeting is not being recorded. It's not even going to be shared. I've come to realize that there were some books I wished I never read growing up. I read them because they were books, but I wished, if I know what I know now, there were some books I wish I never read. And if you have followed me before, I've mentioned it. I wish I had never. I wish I had never read Robert Kiyosaki's series of books. Don't ask me why. That's me though, because so there were some authors I wish I've never read about them. Okay, so reading is strategy, it's intention, and it's systems. Now, so again, we are coming back to a system. You need to upgrade your learning system to make it intelligent. And how do you make it intelligent? Number one, you make sure you follow these 5 different components. The input, that's receiving information. The output, that is processing that information that you have received. Then try to see this scenario, the application of that information. Then in the application, get feedback, and in feedback, refine again. Then that is what you get from the refinement, feedbacks into the output. Now I'll break it down so that it doesn't sound how high sounding. When you want to learn something, first ask yourself, what are the things I need to learn? What are the information that are required for me to learn? And again, I'm going to talk about intentional reading in a minute. But after you have established what the inputs are, then don't rush to drop it because you have gotten the input. Now, a lot of us stop at the first phase and say we have learned something. How many of you are guilty about this? You pick a book, you read it, you get the information, and then say I've learned something. How many of you? Okay. But that is just the first component of learning. The first component of learning is receiving information. Now, there's a lot of, it's only those who have moved, you take a step ahead. That information you have received, you process it. How do you process it? You fix it into a real life scenario. Now, that's when you know what content are related to you, or what content speaks to your context. And that is why I said if I had known what I had known now, I wouldn't have read Robert Kiyosaki's series of which I don't want to call the popular books, because a lot of things that he mentioned as at the time I read it does not apply to my context. So I cannot put it within the Nigeria context, within the context I grew up with. So you process it. It's in the place of processing that you understand it deeply. And how do you process? You meditate on it. And when I say meditation, a lot of us think is mind traveling. Meditation has nothing to do with mind traveling. Okay, I'll give you an example. How do you worry? Okay, you worry by taking a problem, think about the problem, create a scenario in your mind for a problem that has not happened, and develop a possible cause of that scenario. And as a result of that, you now became afraid and you start worrying. Am I lying? I'll share an example with you that I read from a book. So a young lady was standing, a young teenage girl was standing close to a road, and all of a sudden she started crying and crying and crying and crying and crying. And so a concerned person was passing. I was like, hello, young lady, why are you crying? Stop crying. Why are you crying? He said, you won't understand. He said, Tommy, why are you crying? He said, just standing here, I'm thinking that one day I'll find the love of my life, get married to the love of my life, a very handsome, wealthy, good, God-loving person, and then we'll have a beautiful girl. And that beautiful girl will try to cross this road, and the girl will be crushed by a car, and the lady will die. How does that sound to you? Now, this is exactly what we do when we worry. So we take a problem, we think about the problem, we create scenarios in our heart and develop possible outcomes of that scenario. And at the end of the day, what we worry about become an exaggerated part of what actually is the real problem. That's what you do when you meditate. Meditation means you take a piece of information and let that piece of information stays in your heart for a long time. Now, the mind has a way of expanding it as that information sits in your heart. Is somebody learning something tonight? So it's not like you pick a book and then you want to go to the end so that you can go to social media and say, I've finished my first book for the year, I've finished my second. I know that's good if you are just reading for fun. But if you really want to learn, you will discover that you will be on the same chapter of a book for weeks. And as a result of that, you pick something, you think about it, you create scenarios about it, you fit it into your life. You think about what you've done before that is connected to what you have studied, to what you have read, to what the information you have received. Now, once you do that, what you're doing in that process is akin to digestion. It's acting to what does digestion do? Digestion takes a bulk of food, break it down into a small component that is useful to your body. So your body assimilates the one that is good, and then you defecate the one that is not good. So the one that is good now becomes part of your body and forms part of you. Now, this is what you do. You do the same thing to learning. Receive an input, process it, digest it, sit with it, take the one that is good, then it becomes part of you and you can never forget it. Then the one that is not good, what happens? You just let it go out of your system. That has to build a learning system. Somebody learning something this afternoon. I'm not seeing your hand, so I'm trying to. Okay. So again, I don't want to flog it, but I hope you have gotten mine. Now, after that, the next stage is you now start thinking of the application. How does what I learn, how can I put it into practice? How can I put it into practice? Again, use it in your context. This one around is not about thinking, it is actually doing. And when you do, you discover that there is a whole lot you learn that you were not provided. There's a whole lot you learn from doing. Okay, there's several things you are supposed to learn how you notice that, oh, this does not work. I thought this is going to work this way. If you're a science student, for Matthew that talks about bioscience and research, one of the things you understand in research is that nobody's protocol work first. No, it doesn't matter how the person have detailed out the protocol, the experimental protocol they have designed for you. If you replicate it from the public journal, it doesn't go out the way you plan. Why? Because there is so much somebody can put in writing. There are experiences that the person cannot put in writing. That same experiences, you can't have them until you start the application process. So if you only stop at receiving information or processing information, there are things you cannot get within your own context. And that's how people write books. What do? You receive information, you process the information, then you discover new things that were not covered in the information you received. Then you decide to write it. That's why you write books. That's why you propound theory. And that's the learning process. Then in the place of application, oh God, time. In the place of application, you get feedback, refine that feedback, feed that feedback back again, and the loop continue. So, how many of you have learned something today? With this information, how many of you will proudly say, I've learned something today? Anyone? You have? Okay, great. So, essentially, you've not learned something today. If you have not gone through this 5 process, learning is not complete until you have gone through the 5 process. Okay, learning is not complete yet until you have gone into the 5 process. You have gained information today, you have gained an input today, you may not have learned anything yet. Sekinat, after you were told about the 3-3 framework, have you decided, have you tried to apply it in your context today?
Yes, I actually did.
Brilliant. That means you learned, and you think you see, and you understand, and you see that if you actually, so that's the learning process. Okay, because of our time, I'm glad we are gaining something. Let's make progress. Intelligence system. Now, this is where we are. Okay, let's go there. So The first thing is the next thing is where do you start from? Where do you start from? Now that's when I say, see, the more you grow, the more you realize with me that there were things that should not get your attention to learn them at all in the first place. Because you have limited time, you have limited resources, and you have limited time and you have limited resources. So you need
It's
to
okay, I'll declare for you.
thank you. Please, can you be muted? Whoever is speaking. So that's me. That's why I want to introduce the framework of learning intentions. Learning intentions. Now, what are learning intentions? Now, learning intentions are this one is remember I said in the first time in the at the beginning that if you want to build an intelligent system around anything, you need to be deliberate about learning in that sphere. If you want to be spiritually intelligent, you need to invest in learning about spiritual things. If you want to be emotionally intelligent, you need to invest in learning about your emotions. If you want to be if you want to have career intelligence, if you want to be intelligent in your profession, whatever aspect of any intelligence you want to have, you must learn, and you need to develop a clear learning intention. And what are learning intentions? They are simply a statement that captures what is the outcome of your learning process. What is the outcome of your learning process? So we've given all of you access to Coursera. Now, if you remember at the beginning of the application, I told you guys to write your learning intentions. And I did that I did that intentionally to introduce us to the concept of learning intention. Now, I came to understand this concept in my 200 level. So that at the beginning of every semester, I take all the modules that I'm going to do for that semester and outline a learning intention for each of those modules. I write a learning intention statement for each of them. And it goes this way. Sorry. It says, I want to learn ABC. It can be a skill, it can be a course, it can be whatever. I want to learn ABC so that I can XYZ measure by result. Simple. For example, if we're going to do a course, I studied food science and technology undergrad. Now, if you're going to do a course on food microbiology, what I do first is to pick a food microbiology textbook and read the introduction or the preface of the textbook. More often than not, the preface of the textbook captured what you are expected to know at the end of what you're expected to know if you have read the entire book. So it's captured that nicely in just 2 or 3 pages. From there, I get what the outcome is, what is expected of me. For some of you that have read if you have not read it, go and read about the concept of invariant. Time will not permit. I don't have the time to go through it this evening. We only have 4 minutes more to go. I don't have the time to go through it this evening. So those things are the invariants. So I write, I want to learn food microbiology. I want to study food microbiology so that I can understand, 1, what microorganisms affect food. 2, how did the microorganisms affect the food. 3, how can we prevent the microorganism to affect the food? Now, I'll outline them. I'll summarize them, sometimes into 5 or 6. And this will be measured, by A, B, C, D. That when you develop that, now what that does for you is you focus on the outcome of the learning, not on the process of the learning. Now, what do I mean about that? Now, if you pick a book and your goal is to complete the book, that is a wrong learning intention. But when you pick a book, you need to understand what is the skill in that book, what is the outcome of that book, and how would you know that you have gotten the outcome? I give an example here. I want to learn for those of us that don't know what regression analysis is, it's a statistical analysis. So I want to learn regression analysis. You see how specific it is. I didn't say I want to learn statistical analysis. No, I want to learn regression analysis so I can analyze research data and publish a paper within 3 months. That's vague. A clear one is I want to write one high quality article weekly for the next 8 weeks. So again, because of our time, I'll have to make progress. Maybe if time permits us, I'll give us this. So how do you carve out an intelligent? Sorry, why is this like this? So how do you carve out a good learning intention formula? You need to focus on the invariants. Again, I'm not going to talk about invariants tonight because I've mentioned what invariance is and I've talked about what are invariants. Now, so the exercise I want you to do after tonight, and again, it's not compulsory, but if you do it and send it for me, I'm going to share a document with us, and I want you to pick something you intend to learn in the next. Okay, let me talk about intentional reading first before I talk about what next I'm going to do. Okay, now what's an intentional reading? Again, this one I developed this one after I graduated. The first one was learning intentions, which focus on the outcome of the intention that you want to get. Now, this one is an intentional reading. And maybe I'm going to change the name from intentional reading because as at this time, I was focusing on reading because I discovered that I've read a lot of books in my life and I cannot really fit where those books stand within my life. So as I became busier, I had to articulate for myself, what do I need to read? And what are intentional reading? Intentional reading is a process whereby you don't just read books because you want to read books, but you read because you have something in mind. You have something in mind. So how do you do that? For example, if you want to learn about personal branding, you know that your personal brand has not gotten to an extent that you desire. What do you do? What I do in the first thing is I go to Google. Who are the top 10 global personal brand experts? Who are the top 10? Now, if I get the top 10, maybe I'll get the top 3. Has any of them written a book? Does any of them write a newsletter? Does any of them have a videos I can listen to on YouTube? Do they have? I then follow them. Then I now begin to talk up. Then, as I follow, either if they have written a book, I buy their book. If they have a YouTube channel, I subscribe to it. If I have the money to, if they have a coaching session and I have the money to pay them I pay. But if I don't, I explore the free ones as possible. Now, before I now start engaging with their material, I develop my learning intention. So I now develop my learning intention on personal branding, for example, based on them. Now, when you do this, you are deliberate about your learning process. And one of the quickest way to unlearn a wrong thing is to learn the right one. I told you before that you need the weed. Unlike the normal weeding that you have to physically pull out those wrong things that you don't need. What you need to do with weeding off what you have learned that are not correct in your mind is to invest time to strengthen the right information. So when you deliberately pump yourself with the right information, the wrong one that you have unintentionally picked up continues to they start dying down gradually. So that's intentional reading. So what have I told us today? Today I've done 3 things. This night, oh sorry, I'm going to stop here because I promise that I'm not going to take more than this, more than 1 hour. And I'm not going to take a question. I'm sorry, because I want to keep to my word. But what I've done this evening is I've talked about the learning process. And the learning process is made up, and in the learning system, is made up of 5 components. Don't forget, input. The first one is the input. The second one is processing. The third one is application. The fourth one is feedback, and the fifth one is refinement. Then once that is done, we establish that, and we also established what are learning intentions. Learning intentions. I'm going to write a comprehensive workbook and share with you so that you can design your own learning intention. And then I talk about intentional reading framework or intentional. Maybe I'll change the name to something else, such that you pick something about your life that you want to be better off in, something that you know that there is a gap that is missing. Is it public speaking? Is it writing? Is it ability to be consistent? Are you a good procrastinator? Something that you know that is missing from your life and you want to be better. Not more than one at a time. Just pick one of them. Search for the top 10 global experts, not just noisemakers. People that people pay hundreds of thousands to listen to. Thank God you don't need to pay them to listen to them. They might have given a talk. They might have YouTube channels or Instagram account, or follow them on LinkedIn, or even written a book. Buy their books or subscribe to any of their listing. But before you start digesting, write out your learning intention and then go through the process of getting that information, processing the information, applying the information, feedback, refine, and the loop continue. I hope you've gained something tonight from this night class. Okay, so we started 54 and 53 are here, and this is interesting. So I'm sorry, no questions tonight. If you have any question and you are part of GMP, drop it on the group chats. I will be sure to respond to them, and they'll share it with you guys. Thank you for your time. Nice seeing you. Have a great night. You're welcome.